You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Innovation Fuel, a business podcast by University Canada West.
Bringing you fantastic stories from accomplished entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. Let's explore the entrepreneurial world through local businesses and our university community.
Good morning. I was faster than you.
Good morning. Wow. I was going to beat you to that chase, but you beat me. That's so that's how you want to play this game. Oh, okay. So, Gelareh, I am really interested in one thing here. Something? Talent. I don't think there's enough talent out there.
But we really need to define the talents. I think that talent is not just a degree or your ultimate degree. It's just about skills. Be self-learner, for example, trying to have a good human skills, relationship skills, leadership skills, plus technology and digital skills. Degree doesn't just define talents, it's define your harder skills, right? But there is a problem. We have a lot of immigrants, international students. We are having a lot of domestic students, right? But still, in some degrees, in some areas, they cannot find jobs. But there is a lot of, we call it talent gap. Keep saying that talent gap. What do we mean? We have a lot of students, international students, they cannot find a good job. What's wrong with it? What's the problem here? What's the challenges here?
Well, and I think this is the thing. This is an ongoing. I go back to our time, probably in university, and going back way back when we were all like, "There's a talent gap. There's a talent gap." Yet people are coming out and like, "I got a degree. How come I can't get the job?" And I think that the element, and I think, where we're trying to see is there's a misalignment. There's a misalignment between what industry needs to fill those talent elements and what not only post-secondary delivers, but when we even go back, are we preparing students through the elementary system and the secondary system, needing to the post-secondary system to make sure they choose the right pathways for their success and get the right tools to be successful when they leave those pearly gates at the university? Seems to be the challenge there.
It's challenge in the whole. It's not just from post-secondary, as you said, it's coming from elementary as well, elementary schools, and how students can find their passion for sure, but how we can make sure that we are giving this option of digital skills to students in the earliest stage. Maybe they have passion there, but do we have access to this knowledge or skills as well?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, where is it, and where do we find it, and do we have who do we rely on to give it to us? Is it industry? Is it government? Is it the institutions? Who's where do we build this?
Absolutely. I think that we have guests today that can answer these questions. We want to welcome back Sheldon Levy, the interim president of University Canada West. Welcome, Sheldon.
Hello, good to see you again, and Gelareh and Dave, nice to be here with you.
Yes, Sheldon, again, I'm very excited to have you back on Innovation Fuel. We want to pick up, Sheldon, in our last conversation. We started down the pathway of scale up and the challenges that we face in Canada around scale up. And one of the things we talked about was the educational piece and the lack of talent in the market. We want to pick up on that, where we left off on that, and talk more about elementary, post-secondary, and both international and domestic side of things, and how can we contribute to this element? Where do we need to start from?
The issue of what is called the talent gap, it's got to be now 20 years old. And as I said in my Globe and Mail article, we continue to chase the mechanical rabbit. Rabbit is the need of the economy, and we are chasing it by trying to change our programs, become more agile, and to meet that need. And I think everyone would agree that we're improving and we're making progress, but the truth of it is that mechanical rabbit continues to run, and it's gaining speed. So you're asking the question, okay, rather than chasing the rabbit, how do we catch up to the rabbit? And in fact, I would argue that a thriving economy passes the rabbit. In other words, you have the talent available for companies to grow into, and you, by having the additional or available talent, you attract companies to Vancouver, to British Columbia, and to Canada by having the talent. You could imagine a company that is making a decision on where to grow, and they knock on the Vancouver door or the British Columbia door, and it says, "Oh my goodness, there's no talent here. We can't get the talent to grow." So what does that company do? It's not going to be. It's either going to say, "I'm going to steal the talent and make it worse for someone else," or likely say, "I think I'll go somewhere else." So this problem that we keep on talking about is what you could call the future prosperity of the country.
How do you define a talent? What do you mean? Skills in technology, softer skills, managerial skills, leadership skills. What do you mean by talent?
The talent needs are almost always defined by the job description of industry. And we could fool ourselves, and we probably do fool ourselves too much by saying our programs, and I say our in a more macro way to say universities, and we'll define our programs as meeting that need. At the same time, the person that will either say it does or does not is going to be the hiring person, not the producer. And so we have to recognize that the definition of need is going to be the one that hires our students. And no matter what we say with regard to that, we have educated the person to move directly into the workforce. That's only validated by that they got a job and that that their resume is attractive or their LinkedIn to the industry that is hiring them. What is the talent need? I would say it's a talent need that is defined by the ever changing needs of the employer. And this is very, very important because we have to differentiate in talent from teaching what you could call widgets. And what we have to do is think it's not our role for them to get a job. It's our role to help them get great careers because you could teach Excel 2.0.5 or whatever. But if the job changes to be Tableau, well, then the person says, I'm out of a job. But to understand the technology and how it applies to the workplace and to be able to pick up credentials because you become a lifelong learner and you could move quite readily from one technology to the other. And we are really educators of the integration of technology into the workplace and give you the tools and the learning for you to be successful in gaining your job. But more important, we give you the education that allows you to continue to adapt, learn, and to be able to move your career from your entering job further along. I don't know how many art students are out there that read that there's a talent gap and companies are dying for talent and then say, I'm here. What's wrong with me? I can't believe it's so. I can't find a job. So disconnect has been going on for a very, very long time. Back to Dave's question, what is the responsibility? I really believe it is a number of institutions like UCW taking a responsibility that for students that may have completed, say, an arts degree, a very, very good, important arts degree, say at UBC, Simon Fraser, wherever, that they know that their journey, their education journey hasn't ended yet. And then they move into a professional master's program that equips them with the tools and the education necessary to now take their important education that they have learned and move into the workplace. And a UCW or another university doesn't do that in the absence of a very close relationship with industry. And I would say it's almost a co-development of the curriculum with industry that facilitates students moving from their undergraduate degree into a professional master's into a job that helps close the gap. I could see a number of institutions saying, I can play that critical, important intermediary role between the workplace and the undergraduate degree, and I will help to close the gap, but I'm not going to do it without industry as a partner in this. And so that's sort of what call it the ideas that I think we have to consider.
And when you talk about that, Sheldon, you do see institutions rising to occasion. So you do see institutions come along and they create a program, they create it alongside with businesses, and they move forward with it. But the challenge that I see happening, and I don't know if you see the same thing, is that the great divide starts to happen, meaning they don't adapt the program over time to meet the continuous needs of the employer or the future needs of the employer. And the same program keeps on going and going and going, thinking I'm filling this market void, but really it's getting further and further from the actual challenge in the market and the employer's need.
Its adaptation that you have described is really on the margin. It's not adapting its institution, it's adapting on the margin. And when it adapts on the margin, it becomes marginal, right? And so it's not a surprise that when government would give a grant and it has a marginal impact, it doesn't grow roots like into the institution itself. It just lives on the margin. I'm thinking of a strategy where the institution, that you stop pretending that you could do it on the margin, that you have a strategy that there is institutions with that responsibility of closing the gap, and they work with industry such that it doesn't keep on, as you said, Dave, going in a 2022 trajectory when it's now 2030. Like you're really, really working with industry. We have to get away from thinking that I'm criticizing a university's traditional. Far from it. The importance of a liberal arts education is, oh my goodness, it's critical to closing the gap. But what I'm really criticizing is that we continue to do it on the margin of our activity, and we got to find a way that it becomes the core of activity. And it's a lot easier to do that by having an institution that believes that that's its core mandate to work with industry in closing the gap.
I think that we have to look at the bigger picture of education system in Canada. And in the post-secondary, we're serving a lot of international students, which is great. But again, we have to look at our domestic students and see that how they are prepared to be on the master level or post-secondary schools. Our education systems actually help them to be prepared for engineering, for data science, for math, for science by itself, or there is a gap there that the students will willing to go to some programs like arts, associate arts programs, that maybe cannot find many jobs there.
Didn't matter what university or what province I've been in Canada. I've always heard if I don't have Canadian experience, I can't get a job. And you get into the catch-22 of experience and employment, and yet you as a student don't even get a chance to be a gap closer because you don't have the experience. This is additional responsibility of that institution and industry, because we have to have a way that provides that Canadian experience to those students that make them valuable to industry. And the reason why international numbers are so high in Canada is because Canada needs immigration. And we are blessed with international students that want to study in Canada, and many of them want to make a home in Canada. So when you say all of that, and then you say we have a gap problem, it's only logical and necessary that those students are part of the solution. That's the responsibility I would see of industry in this, call it, new kind of institution to help these students. With regard to domestic students, many universities will have professional programs, whether it's a professional program in engineering or in nursing or in medicine or in architecture. And those students naturally find it easier to gain employment because the profession that gives the accreditation has already built into the institution that what you could call experiential and necessary requirements for the degree. So you have in the accredited programs the profession and therefore industry already having influence on that degree. An institution that has, say, nursing or engineering, they got to pay attention because the student wants that iron ring or the student wants the RNA to be able to practice. And if they don't have it, that institution is in a lot of difficulty because the student said, I'm not going to you because I don't have the iron ring or I can't practice, right? So say that's 10% of the students. So now you ask yourself, well, how about the other 90 or 85% that are not in accredited programs where the profession and therefore industry has that influence? And you say, yeah, why do we leave those students out of the job market? And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about essentially to act like the accreditor with industry at mass, giving the level of accreditation to this new institution that prepares students no different than engineering or nursing or architecture with the necessary skills and understood credentials and experiences that lead them to jobs.
So, with that in mind, Sheldon, like I hear what you say, and I'm thinking about. When I go back and I think about the elementary school and the post and the secondary schools, and almost the guidance pathway to choose the right direction when you get to university. Is there a responsibility to go further than the post secondary institution in a domestic world and in a domestic in Canada and say, hey, should we be putting more pressure on elementary schools and secondary schools to better prepare these students to make the right selection? Should we be giving them the tools? What tools should we be giving them to make sure they make the right selection when they come to the university?
When I was president at Ryerson, I used to regularly be principal for the day at high schools. And I would go into the high school and I would talk to the students. And it always blew my mind how little they knew about post-secondary education, about the financing of post-secondary, how the choices. Like, no doubt they were all wonderful, wonderful young people, but oh my God, like the most basic stuff. And so it's really a responsibility to share with students that the digital economy is everything. Like every job you want to go into, you want to go into political science? Terrific. You want to go into dance? Terrific. Doesn't matter, but understand that the job at the end for 98% of you is going to have a digital context in it. And that you think of your career and your studies as a pathway from a content knowledge integrated with a digital knowledge with an industry perspective no different than if you went into nursing, right? We've done this for decades and decades and decades in the professions. And then we say, oh, well, we got to closing the gap. Well, just look at our experience. And so, yes, absolutely. But what I would avoid, I guess it's because it's where I come from. I would avoid pushing students to technical careers when they want to be a dancer or they want to study English. I don't want to ever minimize the importance of humanities and social science as a broad, important part of education. Part of their education has got to also be to help them see how that talent that they have and education that they have earned can now be put together as a package along with, I call it digital education, worked on with industry and a professional master's program that prepare you to take what you have learned, add a new element to it, and help close the gap.
Absolutely. So you think that the post-secondary have more relationship with secondary and elementary education to prepare students and give awareness to students, right? That's what is going to look like in their future career.
Yeah, it's funny, Larry. I love all these people, but would I trust a random faculty member, or the random academic, or random administrator to talk to students about the economy and the digital future? Would I trust this new organization to have a role with industry to do that? I would be more inclined. I'd be more inclined. A university like a UBC, a Simon Fraser, or a U of T, a Ryerson, I mean, whatever one you want, they are built in a certain way to do a certain thing. And some of them, to now ask them to reinvent themselves, that's what I say will be at most at the margin. But they do really, really important things. So let's just add on to their important things. And with a set of institutions in Canada, have the responsibility with industry to close the gap and act very much like the professional accreditor of nursing, architecture, medicine, etc., that ensure that those graduates have the skills to enter their workplace. That's what they do when they give the iron ring or they give the RNA or they give the MD. What they are doing is ensuring those students, along with their broad education, has the necessary education to be able to sign that document that says that bridge is safe, right? So let's give all students that professional accreditation.
As university, we really want to be current. The curriculum development and approval from different governmental institutions, it's so hard and takes so much time. And also, international students come to education system, post-secondary education, with the hope of staying and make Canada at their second home. But they are really, really much interrelated. It's everything is going to be related. We want to make a better curriculum, but it will take a lot of time to get our approval. During this time, students will come and join our education systems or programs, but then that program is not current. So it's a challenge between these parties. And how do you think that as a post-secondary education system, we can help the students have a current education and market skills without going through that long process?
First of all, agree with you that it is a challenge. And, at the public institutions, they'll blame everything on time, on Senate, on tenure. They will have a whole list of things that they will blame. Others will be able to point at government, et cetera, et cetera. So that responsibility is one that is widely shared. But underneath it is the following problem. It's called, and now I put on my deputy minister hat experience. The problem that is that when you develop things that are new, that things that are innovative, things that are looking to the future, you're taking some element of risk because you're looking forward, not backwards. So you're predicting the type of curriculum necessary, and industry is looking at what they see as necessary moving forward. Could be that they say, boy, you have to know something on cryptocurrency, and here is the program. But as things evolve, they had it wrong. So what do people as an entrepreneur do? They adapt to the new circumstances and evolve that. They don't have a final destination of known because they know that the world is changing too quickly. So they become adaptive, flexible, and as a result, when you do that, you can make a mistake. Right? There's a possibility of error. The problem is that governments, senates, everyone, I would say, society at large, likes certainty. They don't like mistakes. If you get it 99% right and 1% wrong, guess what becomes publicized? The 1%. It becomes on the newspaper. Oh, look at what they did. They had a course on this. These people really don't know what they're doing. And so the necessity perfection, or the drive to perfection, is almost the only way you're going to do it is to look backwards at what has happened as opposed to forwards of what will be. And it's government does it, universities do it, and we do it, right? So the answer really, I think, is that we have to get out of the necessity of perfection and realize, looking forward and being able to adapt and to be able to move quickly and do it with industry, like you do as an entrepreneur in a startup, is the way the economy will thrive, and it is a necessary element of closing the gap. How are you going to close the gap? By programs that are 5 years old when the industry changes at a rate of every 6 months, right? It is a problem, and government shares that responsibility, no doubt about it. But I only say there's a lot of fingers to point in many directions on this. But if someone said, "Oh, this is a great idea, Sheldon, we love it," and now it will take, we'll have to have the program, and it'll take, you got to have 4,000 pages, and we got to review it for 2 years. I'd say forget it, right? I mean, that's economy 1.0. I'm talking about economy 2.0 that can't take that. And what would industry do? Industry is now your partner, and you say to them, "Thanks, guys, for that curriculum. It's going to take 3 years to get it approved," or they'll say, "Forget it. I'm out of here." So I'm with you, but I only say that a very large problem that people don't want to deal with.
Absolutely. I think that I agree with you. But I believe if we want to have an anti-fragile society, we need to take the risk, grow through the risk, go through the mistakes.
And you
Yes,
have to be able to make a mistake. I was talking
exactly.
to a Globe reporter not long ago on a different topic, and we were talking not about this, but a related topic. And then I said to the reporter, "You're the problem." Pause. And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Because if the government went down the path that we're just talking about, I can assure you that they won't have it perfect, and there will be some mistake. And then where will you write that story? Front page, government made the mistake. But the government has to get elected again. And that's not a great way to get elected again. So they say, I can't make any more mistakes." And then you're back to where we began. And so I conclude it's Canada. We all have to be much more resilient, much more flexible, less fragile, more forward looking, and more willing to forgive mistakes others make as they're trying to invent a better future for all Canadians.
I absolutely love it, Sheldon. I think that ends a great element to our show. But Sheldon, let's throw it out there. What is a challenge that we can throw out there? How can we start elements? How can we start here at our institution? Maybe we can challenge our students here. Is there anything we can do right now to start this journey?
Every time I have a discussion, I learn things, and I learned things today as well. And the last little bit of Gelareh's question about how do you move forward, I think this is a challenge that not only for UCW, but for all of us to be able to take quite seriously is the question, how do you move forward? Looking forward when you don't know the future. And how do you do it in a timely way without making mistakes? I think asking all of us for that, recognizing the front page story, recognizing mistakes, recognizing that you won't get it perfect, that is a big Canadian question that goes well beyond closing the gap.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sheldon. Thank you, Dave. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at innovation_fuel.